Most of us don't wake up intending to ignore God. What usually happens is a more subtle shift than that. The day just fills up quickly. Responsibilities stack up and problems need attention. And then before we know it, we're moving from one thing to the next. And it feels responsible and engaged. It might even feel faithful, but the truth is constant motion has a way of keeping us from hearing anything we didn't already plan to hear. In Nehemiah chapter 1, we get a story of a guy, Nehemiah, who gets devastating news. Jerusalem's wall is still broken down. The city is vulnerable. There is real urgency and real work to be done. And Nehemiah does something that feels almost counterintuitive. In a moment like that, he just sits down. He weeps, he mourns, he fasts, and he prays for days. The rebuilding doesn't start with strategy. It starts with stillness and with listening. That details matters because Nehemiah is not passive. He is decisive. He's courageous. He's effective. We're going to see that throughout his story. But he refused to confuse immediate action with obedience. He lets the weight of the moment settle before he moves. He allows grief to do its work before productivity takes over. If I'm honest, we rarely do that. When something breaks, we fix. When tension rises, we manage. When God surfaces something uncomfortable, we fill the space with activity. Busyness can feel like faithfulness because it looks like engagement. But movement without listening can become a way of staying in control rather than surrendering it. Nehemiah's stillness wasn't laziness. It was attentiveness. He didn't rush to build because he knew that rebuilding without prayer would only recreate what was already broken. He needed God's heart before he picked up the tools. That's uncomfortable because stillness gives God room to speak. And sometimes what he says isn't efficient. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it requires us to feel something that we would rather outrun. Activity can quiet our conscience without ever changing our direction. So here's the question worth sitting with today. Where has movement replaced listening in your life? Not sinful movement, faithful-looking movement. The kind that keeps you from stopping long enough to ask what God is actually inviting you into. You don't need to stop doing everything. Nehemiah didn't. He just refused to act before he listened. Stillness was not the end of obedience. It was the very beginning of it. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me before the noise today. And don't forget, faith isn't proven by how fast you move, but by whether you're willing to stop and listen. God loves you more deeply than you can ever imagine.